share a couple of thoughts with you today on creativity in practice. Practice is a dreaded word by many. I still don't like practicing much, but practicing yields some wonderful results. One of the things that's important about practice is this concept called deliberate practice. The statement deliberate practice means exactly what it says. You're practicing in a focused and a concentrated kind of way. For example, if you want to play scales, there's a methodology to do that. It's called patience, first of all. For example, you take this note here, middle C. You play it, and you play D. Most people, when they begin, there's a separation between the first note and the second note in a sort of kind of detached way. The challenging thing with making beautiful piano music and beautiful music in general is connecting the first note to the second note. It's called legato. So you're going to play the C, then you're going to play the D, but you're going to make sure that from the C to the D, there is no space between them. And therein lies the challenge of piano music. This whole thing called legato, connecting the beginning of the first note to the next note. So if you have the patience to do this, you can reap wonderful, wonderful musical rewards. And so the goal is to get to 5 notes. And try it in different octaves. This brings me back to a memory when I was a teenager. I just finished doing what is known as grade 8 piano. It's a British system, and I had played some Mozart sonata and a Bach piece and some Brahms. And I went to a new teacher, and she said to me on that day, "I'm going to teach you how to play a note." I thought she was out of her mind, because I could play like this. And so I said, "What is this woman talking about?" But it proves to be one of the greatest lessons ever in the world. She taught me how to not only play the note, but to listen to it. So when you're playing legato, you want to listen to the quality of the note, the tone. And as you listen to it, you develop a sense of smoothness, but you develop a sense of what the piano sounds like. Try it an octave higher. And even higher. But here's where the powerful lesson comes in. If I play this note here, you will notice that it's lasting a pretty long time. As I go an octave higher, the sound starts to die away pretty soon. And an octave higher still, it's really dying away quite quickly. Pretty much gone. And so the great lesson I learned when I was a teenager from Janice Millington from Barbados was that every register of the piano has a different kind of duration to the notes. So when you play in the low part of the piano, it's more resonant. When you play higher, it's less resonant and the sound dies away more quickly. So that means that when you play in the lower part of the piano, you should play a little slower because the sound lasts longer, and you can play a little faster in the high parts because the sound goes away very, very quickly. It doesn't mean that when you play slow music in the higher part of the piano, that you play it fast. You know, it means that you want to be sensitive to the sound. And even here. So one of the first things you want to be considering at the piano is smoothness. Because without smoothness, music can never ultimately be beautiful. Whether it's classical, whether it's pop, whether it's folk music. Smoothness is the key. And also evenness of playing. Making sure that you're keeping the tempo correct. making sure that the notes are balanced in volume, not or, but and so as you concentrate on these kinds of things, so these are foundational things that every musician needs to know. Consistent volume, dynamics, making sure that everything that you play is smooth. Now, having said that, there are different types of touches on the piano. You have staccato, and you have detached. But the most challenging one, and most beautiful one, is legato. Now, let's assume that you have mastered playing 5 notes. You can add a triad into the left hand, because the goal is to make the music interesting. Even if you just have 3 notes, actually. You can take a triad on the left hand, a triad of C major, and just do this. Or you can start with the left hand first, and then bring the right hand in. Now the cool thing about C major is that it has only white notes. So you don't have to worry about going from white to black or black to white. You can do a triad on C, on D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And you can make music right away. And for those of you who teach, you can teach your students these kinds of things. And back down. Okay? And then you can also have them imitate the triad in the right hand at a much slower pace in the beginning. But it helps, I think, to have a child or have a person create music right away on day one, as opposed to teaching them theory and that kind of thing. Get a person connected with the instrument so they can fall in love with the piano. Then, of course, play for them. And so back to creativity in practice. Now take this simple idea. Depending on how advanced your technique is, you can add some broken chords. And that kind of thing as well. Now, one of the most challenging things for people is things like scales. I find that people are learning a lot of scales that they don't play. For example, if you're playing a piece in the key of C major, I would encourage a student or a person to practice things that are related to C major. For example, take this Clementi sonatina. If I'm playing things in C, I would want to play maybe the C scale. Contrary maybe. Broken chords. Another broken chord here, 4/4 I call it. Now I want to camp out here for a minute. I think this is a place where you can make really, really beautiful chord progressions. And of course a chord progression is when one chord progresses from one place to another. Now take this 4/note form, what they call it, in broken form. If you add a legato to that, add a triad to that, the sustain pedal, and get this. Or you can practice the scale like that. Go to the D minor or the D triad. And practice the entire scale like that. And you can make music like this on day 1 for some people and day 2 for other people. Then you can try it in various progressions. Like take the 1/4/5, the C triad, the F triad, the G triad, and then the C triad. And here's the pattern. And then you can reverse the broken chord in the right hand. with various patterns still in the key of C major. For example, one of my favorite patterns to play is the 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. The first degree, the second degree, the third degree, and the fifth degree. And reverse it, etc. And then eventually, as the person gets into speed, and then the hands together, etc. And so these are what I find very interesting ways, because I don't think it makes sense to learn a whole piece that's not something that you're going to perform ever in public. They call them studies, like Charity and these kinds of guys. I know it takes a lot of time to learn, but you can learn a real piece of music that you're going to perform in public, and you can make up your own exercises, you know, this kind of stuff. Now, another thing that you can do in terms of creative practicing is to re-harmonize a piece, and it really depends on how advanced you are and what your knowledge of chords is. Now here is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. For a beginner student, you can have someone play the chords like that. C major, F major, C, simple. They can learn that on day 1 or day 2. And for the more advanced students, you can add some more chords, you know. And then you can try things an octave higher. And then you can take that even further as you grow in your music. Now, what I find very useful to me in my own personal learning and practice is that the use of using classical music or bits of classical music to improve not only your technique, but your improvisational skills. Take this piece here. That's a tune for the revolutionary etude by Chopin. The left hand is. Teenager, and the left hand totally influenced my mobility in my left hand. And I learned it in the other keys. E minor now, F minor, and G minor. E minor, E minor, back to C minor. And here. That is a right hand from a Chopin piece, but it helps you with this kind of stuff. So there are many, many ways we can make our practices a little bit more exciting than they are. Now, the thing that's important with, back to the key of C major, we can learn different types of techniques even in the early stages. For example, we have thirds. quite challenging because you have to play the two notes at the same time. And not like this. But you can take these things and add basic chords to them, depending on how advanced you are. You can do this. And then, of course, you can modulate them and do different chord progressions. And then we have 6. They don't have to be super fast, but they add a beautiful thing to your playing. And then we have wonderful things like trills. Trills are quite a challenge because in the advanced Beethoven sonatas you find a lot of these kind of things. But trills are very, very cool even with jazz and pop music. Then you can speed it up a little bit. And the left hand. Something for you now that's going to incorporate a number of these thoughts. And the goal is to, as you enter your practices, to be proactive and deciding what it is that you want to achieve in a practice, what level of concentration you want to give in a practice, and how much intensity in the moment that you can focus mentally during that practice. In other words, you really don't want to be on Facebook and Instagram while you're practicing. You want to be totally committed to that moment so you can enjoy the beauty that is part of this instrument. Thank you so much for listening. I enjoyed spending this time with you, and I hope it was helpful.